in this episode, we are thrilled to have Caroline Kamerbeek from DNV join us as a part of the Energy Gamechanger series. Caroline is a long-standing ally of Charles, and she's the VP of Marketing, Communications, Public Affairs for Energy Systems at DNV. Together with Charles, she is the initiator behind the Energy Gamechanger Initiative. Today, she will share her views and expertise on building a safe and sustainable future through professional marketing and communications. Caroline believes our profession can significantly accelerate the energy transition, and in that respect, I totally agree with you. Hello, Caroline, and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Fridrik. Very honored to be here in your podcast.
Likewise.
Great
our
to see
podcast, and we've been talking about this for a long time, and there is no exaggeration. You've been a part of Charles for years now, and thank you for that. Yes. But I have some questions to ask you, and in particular, we want to focus on what I said in my opening. What can we do as marketing and communication professionals to expedite this thing we call the energy transition?
Yes.
So let's just dig right into it, and if I have some probing questions, I go into them. But my first question: how would you describe the current state of the energy industry?
Yes, I think it's the best industry to be in. It's an incredibly exciting industry and very important for the future of the globe, I would say. And the great thing is that technology can do it. Technology can really meet the climate targets. But what we found out in DNV's energy transition outlook, where we look, okay, where are we with the energy transition? Then we see if we continue at the current pace, we will end up with a 2.2 temperature increase by 2050, which is too much. We want to stick below 1.5. So we also looked at what could be that pathway to net zero, and with the current state of technology, it is possible. So it is possible to still achieve that target, which would be fantastic if we can reach that. If you look at the state, I think it goes really fast, but we should go much faster. I think that is the main message for me at this moment.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll come back to this point later on. But what do you think? What are the biggest challenges that this industry is facing today?
Yeah. Well, the challenge is not that technology cannot do it. Technology is there. We have wind, we have solar, there's storage. Grids, of course, are a big enabler and should be a big enabler in the years to come, and also go fast. So, but technology should not be the showstopper. And I think at this moment it is very much government decisions, policies that we need to really prepare ourselves for the next phase, which is the implementation of clean energy and really rebuilding the energy system. So policymakers and governments are, I think, the main enablers or the biggest challenge at this moment. It depends how you look at it. And I think that's where we need to focus on also from a communication and marketing perspective.
Mm-hmm. So this is the common thread between in your answers in this question and to my previous one. And the tech is not the problem, but then there's a but. And that but is we have to get people to understand it. So policymakers, people in general. But why do you believe that marketing and communication professionals are particular? Why do you think they can change something, or can they change something in that respect? Are they the answer to, this stop?
Yeah, I don't know if they are the answer, but at this moment, I think our profession, and when I talk about our profession, it's really broad. It's marketing, but it's communication, also journalists, everyone involved in influencing and explaining the energy transition is involved. But the reason I think this is so important is because of the fact we're not going fast enough. And one of the biggest issues is governments not going fast enough because they think that people do not really want this, or they think, oh, it's just a very small percentage, Extinction Rebellion who stick themselves to the roads, or it's the very right-wing people who are, or the climate deniers. And the thing is that 80% of the global population believes in climate change and that we should do something about it. They want governments to do something about it. But these 80%, which is of course a massive number of people, should be mobilized and should become more visible and should be more enthusiastic. That's, I think, where we, as let's call it in one word, communicators, can play an incredibly important role in building the image, building the brand for energy outside in the outside world. And I think that is, where we play an incredibly important role.
Interesting. This 80%, which geographies is this coming from? I mean, when you say 80% believe in it.
It is a very interesting survey. At first, I saw it in the Netherlands, and then I looked at whether this also applies at the global level. And I found an interesting article and survey written by Hannah Ritchie, and you can find it on the website of World in Data. So if you search for the perception gap, then you will find it. And it was a survey done in more than 60 countries in around the globe. So it's quite a large group of people that was surveyed. And that's why I believe this is really true. And together, I think we can. First, we could do something to mobilize this group, but also the way we portray. If I look at our target audience, maybe in this podcast, the energy industry, the energy sector, is we use the same language all the time. Can we be less technology driven? Can we make it more sexy? The energy world. Can we make it more interesting, bring it closer to the people, talk about the solutions and make it more attractive and more positive? And of course, there is this threat of climate change, and we all know, the terrible pictures of burning forests and melting icebergs, etc. But I think we should move to the phase where we say, hey, this is actually happening. This energy transition is happening, and together we can do this. I think that's where we should focus on together. All together, all the communicators together can play a really important role there.
No, it really is a high percentage, and when you think about all the deniers, you think about Trump voters, etc. You think about all the people that are not on board on this. So this is great. This is encouraging, but let's talk a little bit more about the role of the marketing and communication professionals in all of this. Can you explain in layman's terms what we can do? So, I mean, what can we do to help?
Yeah, a few things I think is, and we talk about energy game changers, which are very much the people who make a change and who help accelerate the transition. One of the things that we can do, especially people at my level, when you are at director level, you can influence also the CEO and say to the CEO that he should stand up more and be more bold, and that they can make a difference. People look at them, they look at leaders. So we see companies like Fortescue from Australia, mining company, for example, their CEO, and I think even their board, chair of the board, is making a plea and is trying to push that very hardcore, hard to abate sector forward. And I think that are the kind of leaders that we need. So that's one thing. Another thing is in the way we talk. We currently talk directly to inside our own energy bubble. Can we do more, maybe together as industry, with utilities or whatever, do more to build a more positive picture of what is happening in the energy industry. If you go, I don't know if you've done that, but I've been in utilities, I've been in coal plants, I've been at wind farms. If you are there, it's so impressive. Can we do something to convey to the external world what is happening in the energy transition? So to really create enthusiasm. And I would almost say we should convince people like Donald Trump that this is something to work on, because there will be jobs, jobs for many people. There is a fantastic story if I may share, on the US television, 60 Minutes is called, and it's on the state of Wyoming, which was one of the big coal states in the US, where the governor, who's a Republican, explains how he believes in climate change, and he's turning his state into a renewable state, and he sees all and not so much because he's into green or whatever, but he sees the jobs and he sees what this brings for his land, for his state. And I think that is what we need to do more and get out of our renewables and green bubble and make this bubble much bigger. Yeah, so that's what I think. The positive stories, the realistic stories on how tough it is and how big this industry is and is advancing, mobilize our leaders. Those are the things that I think we can do.
Yeah, thanks. Great answer. You referenced game changers, and we've and this podcast even carries the name game changers. Can you define what a game changer in the energy industry means to you?
Yes, game changers for me are people who are daring to stand out and maybe take decisions that might not be immediately popular for their shareholders. And of course, we also see recently people who are not so much a game changer. But yeah, so I just, of course, had the example of Fortescue, but also Total. But there are also other oil and gas companies who are now daring to make change and to say, okay, we need to talk, we need to do more as an industry, even from traditional oil states in the Middle East. So, and that is those who dare to stand up. I think that is for me a game changer. And what I try to push forward is, especially within our profession, because now that with the energy transition, we get more into the implementation phase, and there is more resistance. Nobody wants a wind farm in their backyard, so there's more resistance. So that's where I think we as profession can be real game changers as well.
Good answers, and encouraging to hear that so many companies are actually, to your mind, game changers, and also coming from oil and gas and traditional industry.
Yes, yeah.
But more on the game changers. So, what are some common barriers that game changers face in the energy sector, and how can these obstacles be overcome?
Yeah, the barriers. Maybe I can talk from my own experience. What you see a lot in the energy world, and especially in the more traditional utilities, your colleagues might be more tend to talk about technologies and really portray all the solutions that they have in a very technical way. And I think we need to become better in doing that more closer to the people and do it in a more simple way. When I say, for example, yeah, we have to reach out to net zero, then I understand what that is, but many people might not know. And I think if we, coming back to the perception gap in the beginning, if we want the group that makes more noise to be bigger and be more visible, I think we need to get more people on board. And yeah, and I think moving away from the technical language is one thing, but could also be a barrier in that sense that it's not always that easy to convince your colleagues that we should move away from that.
No, I totally agree. I mean, on this point of the language being the barrier, we are used to internal language, if you will, and we just assume that people understand it. They don't. One of my favorite phrases is simplify to amplify. So we have to simplify our language so it's amplified to more group of people. This is really interesting. But my last question to you, Caroline. So what is your vision for the future of the energy industry? A rather big question, but take a stab at it.
Yeah, I think because we talk a lot about challenges and what is difficult, and I think well, there is something that you see here behind me, but people cannot see it. I think we should talk more about the perspective. How will the world look like if we realize this transition? And that will be fantastic. So that is, I hope, at least from my professional perspective, we can paint this bright future and not in the sense of a bit boring, just white wind turbines and blue skies, but really the fresh air, what it brings to our health, what it brings to the number of jobs that we have, and of course the future that we bring to our children. But that's something that is used all the time. So I hope that this industry is most probably the most important industry at this moment for the future of the globe. So that is what I believe. And if you look at the climate challenge, and I think, of course, there are many other issues that also need attention. But I think if we don't get this under control, it will have impact on all the other issues. So the vision for me is that we get the energy transition fixed, and for sure not only in Northern Europe and the US, and but also in countries that have not fixed yet, and have still make the big steps. I think if we can do this together, collaborate, and also think, okay, there's absolute disbalance in the world with regards to those countries who used a lot of fossil fuels in the past 200 years. What can they do to support the others who still need to build up their energy system? And can some countries also leapfrog? And that is a little bit where I think the collaboration in the energy industry really important. But for me, this industry is key for the globe's future.
We'd like to ask all our guests to end with a pledge. Would you like to pledge something on how to accelerate the energy game changers?
Yes, a very important one. I would almost say, like Martin Luther King, I have a dream, and that dream is that as energy industry and as communicators, we can come together and collaborate to really build this nice energy future together, and really, paint that picture. We cannot do that in isolation, but if we join forces, and I think Charge and a fantastic platform to do that, where we meet and where we can do this together and paint that beautiful picture of the future.
This is, thanks, Caroline. This is very encouraging to talk to you about it, because the challenges are big, as we say. And I like the perspective of, it's not for some scientists out there to solve. It's for everyone. I mean, every single human being, and us as professionals like communication and marketing and branding experts. So this concludes this episode of the Energy Game Changer series. We thank everyone who listened, and thank you so much, Caroline, and look forward to have continued dialogue with you.
Thank you, Fridrik. Looking forward to it.